Hello there, very good evening to all our viewers. This is the news at 9, coming to you live and direct from the Newsfirst Centre here in Colombo. I'm Joel Outscourt.
And I'm Nicola De Zoiza. We start off with a look at tonight's headlines.
Demands for investigation into controversial central bank bond issue to be entrusted to the CID. Sarath Fonseca accuses a section of the UMP of obstructing his attempt to regain his seat in Parliament. Delaying a final decision on the Port City project could lead to massive losses, a warning from project officials. University lecturers suspend demonstration demanding resignation of the Vice-Chancellor of the University of Colombo. On to a developing story this evening, the National Freedom Front says the investigation into the controversy surrounding the latest issue of treasury bonds by the central bank must be entrusted to the Criminal Investigations Department. Now, meanwhile, according to Deputy Minister of Policy Planning and Economic Affairs, Dr. Harsha De Silva, the committee appointed by the President to investigate the matter is encouraging and adds that the central bank should protect its integrity.
The controversial bond issue of the central bank came to the limelight last week, with accusations of insider trading coming to the fore. A weekend newspaper reported on Sunday that the son-in-law of Arjuna Mahendran, the governor of the central bank, was privy to information that the central bank had decided to accept bids up to 10 billion rupees instead of the initially indicated amount of 1 billion rupees, information that was not communicated to the other primary dealers. However, in an article published on the Sunday Times website on the 6th of March, Arjuna Mahendran was quoted as saying that his son-in-law was no longer a part of the firm Perpetual Treasuries Limited.
What used to happen under the same regime is recurring now. What is even more important is that it is the same institution that was involved in this activity back then. Through this institution, EPF funds were used to purchase bonds at high interest rates. Now they say that this officer has resigned. That is the story they are saying now. When the governor of the central bank was appointed, his son-in-law was the owner of this company. Let us say that he has resigned. So, who is the owner now? If he has stepped down, who is the owner? He may have resigned, but then they must inform the country who the new owners are. On
the 9th of October 2013, the central bank issued a press release announcing the appointment of Perpetual Treasuries Limited as an authorized primary dealer. The address listed on this document is number 10, Alfred House Gardens, Colombo 3. The single shareholder of Perpetual Treasuries Limited is Perpetual Asset Management Private Limited. The listed address of the shareholder company is Level 3, Number 10, Alfred House Gardens, Colombo 3. Newsfirst secured a document today listing the directors and shareholders of a company named Perpetual Capital Private Limited, established on the 18th of February 2015 under the registration number PV 103925. The shareholders of this organization are Jeffrey Joseph Aloysius and Arjun Joseph Aloysius. The address listed is also Level 3, Prince Alfred Tower, Number 10, Alfred House Gardens, Colombo 3.
As soon as this government came into power, a foreigner was appointed as the governor of the central bank. Now the governor of the central bank under the good governance government is gifting billions to his son-in-law. This is one of the greatest frauds in the history of the central bank. In a country where investigations into forged birth certificates are given to the CID, the investigation into fraud at the institution which handles the nation's wealth is not given to the CID. Entrust this to the CID immediately.
Yes, you are alleged that there were issues with Perpetual Capital dealing with ETF money. So are you investigating on that?
Yeah, we are. Whatever we said we are done will be done. I mean, Perpetual Capital is a company that basically is, I mean, they have to mandatorily quote for bonds when they are called upon. So then.
So but when the UNP was in opposition, you all were criticized.
Yeah, so what we have criticized then, when we basically had, if Perpetual Capital did anything which had ulterior benefits. But that, so for non-existent things, we can't be scolding and shouting around.
No, what I'm asking is about the previous.
Everything is on track. But when you have sharks that are there in the large seas, there's no point going and catching a small fish. We get the sharks first and come down to the small guys.
We have initiated an immediate investigation into the 2015 bond auction of the central bank. A comprehensive investigation will be held to ascertain the truth of the allegations, and if there is any truth to it, if malpractice has been committed, then we will inform who it was and what mistake was made. The 3-member committee has been entrusted to conduct a complete investigation into the allegations. So we will look into whether this individual is a director in the company concerned, a director at a related company, and whether he was privy to information that others did not receive.
President Maithripala Sirisena instructed the Secretary to the President yesterday to appoint a 3-member committee to investigate the alleged malpractice. However, issuing a statement today, the Prime Minister's office noted that Gamini Pitipana, Mahesh Kalugampitiya and Chandimal Mendis were appointed to the committee yesterday by Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe.
Now, shortly after this news item, on the 7 p.m. news bulletin on our sister channel Sirasa TV, Attorney at Law Shira Lakthilaka of the Anti-Corruption Front contacted us and expressed these views.
මම දැක්කා දැනට කාල ආందోලනයකට පුදුබී තිබෙන මහ බැංකුවේ මුදල් අනකර
I noticed in the news item that was broadcast a short while ago that 3 UNP lawyers have been appointed to investigate the controversial central bank bond issue. In truth, I see this as a farcical situation. On one hand, we saw that the President had yesterday ordered the appointment of a special investigative committee to investigate this matter because it was a highly technical financial fraud that had taken place. While 3 persons who have the technical expertise and an understanding of this matter should have been appointed to act on this, the United National Party has appointed 3 lawyers from the UNP-affiliated National Lawyers Association to investigate this matter. This is akin to getting the story from the rogue's mother.
කටයුතු කරන්න තිබියදී එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂය විසින් එක්සත් ජාතික පක්ෂයේ නීතිඥ සංගමයේ නීතිඥවරු 3 දෙනෙක් මෙම පරීක්ෂණයට පත් කිරීම මම දකින්නේ හොරාගේ අම්මගේ පේන අහන වගේ වැඩක් කියලා.
The Anti-Corruption Front convened a press conference in Colombo today.
අපි වගකීමකින් කියනවා කිරියල්ල මහත්මයා කිව්වට
We responsibly state that 535 million rupees as stated by the Minister Kiriella is a tiny amount. If you visit the website of Avantgarde, you can clearly see that Avantgarde also sells weapons. How are the weapons sold? Weapons from Lanka. What are these weapons from Lanka? Weapons belonging to the Sri Lankan government. According to the Firearms Act, no organization apart from the 3 armed forces can own weapons. They cannot store weapons. They are prohibited from selling weapons. With such a situation at hand, they speak before the respected House of Legislature, stating that the activities carried out by the Lanka organization are legitimate. Don't acquit Lanka based on the details enclosed in files maintained at the Ministry of Defence. The Sri Lankan Navy signed a contract with Nigeria to build 80 boats called the Wave Rider. Such a contract could only be obtained with the intervention of Lanka Logistics. Avantgarde in every way is a firm that violated the laws of the country and international laws, defrauded and misused state property. According to estimates, the annual cost alone is $900 million.
ඩොලර් මිලියන 900ක් හැටියට අපි සලකනවා.
ඒ Avantgarde පෞද්ගලික ආරක්ෂක සේවය, මුහුදු ආරක්ෂක සේවය
The chairman of Avantgarde, Nisanka Senadipati, was banned from overseas travel and his passport was impounded. Now the ban has been lifted and he has been permitted to engage in foreign travel. We are now suspicious as to whether a financial transaction was carried out with the involvement of several top-level ministers in the country to facilitate this. Allegations have been levelled at several ministers. Allegations have been levelled against the chairman of one of the main political parties. Now a clear investigation has to be carried out into this. The truth behind this should be revealed to the public, because the chairman of Avantgarde, who has many charges filed against him and legal measures being taken against him, has been seen carrying large sums of money and holding meetings with top-level politicians. This is a grave situation.
පොඩි රැගෙන මේ ප්‍රධාන දේශපාලකයන් හමු වෙන්න යනවා කියලා. මේක ඊටාම දරුණු තත්ත්වයක්. ගෙවුණු දින 59 තුල
With the passing of 59 days, there has been no action where we can be 100% satisfied. We as the Anti-Corruption Front came forth to investigate large-scale fraud and corruption committed in the country in the past. But instead, we are now vested with the responsibility of taking up cases of large-scale fraud and corruption that have occurred within the 60 days of this government coming into power. Now, if they intend on playing the same old game, I believe the public is clever enough to duly respond in the near future.
ජනතාව ඒකටත් නොදුරේම පිළිතුරු දෙන්න මං හිතනවා සූදානම් වෙයි කියලා.
On to one of our headline-making stories this evening. The Deputy Project Manager of the Colombo Port City Project, speaking to Newsfirst today, noted that the suspension of the Colombo Port City Project would result in the country incurring a massive loss.
Construction work at the Colombo Port City Project was temporarily suspended as per a cabinet decision on the 4th of this month. News1st was closely monitoring the site and reported to the public on this massive construction site. However, News1st showed how construction was continuing even after the suspension order was issued. Today, when News1st engaged in discussions with engineers at the site, they said construction continued until the 6th of this month because that was when they received written notification of the order to suspend construction work immediately. News1st also inquired into how the suspension would affect the current progress of the project and whether the marine environment around the Gulf face would be affected due to this.
Stopping this project halfway causes many harmful effects. At first sight, this revetment or the rock wall looks like rocks are being laid along the way. There are several profiles here or several levels. Stopping this will lead to a situation where we will be unable to face the different seasons in the future. This is not the season. Even at this off-season, if such erosion is taking place, we can assume that the erosion during the season will be more different.
The Deputy Manager notes that if an immediate decision is not taken, the country will incur a massive loss.
500 to 600 persons worked here. This was a heavily congested area with vehicular traffic as well. I believe that the government will look into this matter soon and will take a decision that will be more positive.
The new ambassador to China, Yi Jiangliang, says that the port city project is important to Sri Lanka and not just for the Chinese company. He made this statement at a meeting with journalists at the Chinese embassy today.
China is promoting the Silk Road. This will benefit to all countries concerned, including Sri Lanka. This project is a landmark one. We already read so many news from the media these days, particularly since the decision of suspension made by the new government. I must be sure this project is important for Sri Lanka, not only for the Chinese company.
Yi Jiangliang assumed duties as the new Chinese ambassador to Sri Lanka on the 24th of February 2015. Still in local news, Democratic Party leader Sarath Fonseca has accused a group of persons from the UMP of disrupting his attempt to regain his seat in Parliament. Now, he made the following remarks at a meeting held at the party office in Colombo today.
Jayantha
Katagoda had a right to come there with his lawyers, and he had come there with his lawyers. We are amazed when we saw his team of lawyers. One of them was a UMP provincial councillor. He spoke on behalf of Jayantha Katagoda free of charge. A question has arisen regarding the principles and politics of UMP provincial councillor Srinath Pereira. A jealous faction within the UMP government, which is either afraid or envious of me returning to my seat, is interfering in this. The people have hope that the government will take action against those who were involved in large-scale fraud and corruption. Examples like this will enable the people to understand why such action is not being taken. I see an attempt here to break the trust of the people and dissolve the trust the people have placed in the president prior to an election. That is what is happening here. We call on the people to correctly understand this situation. General Sarath Fonseca presented letters of appointment to a group of district organizers of the Democratic Party at an event held at the party office today.
In business news, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka says they accepted bids for 51 billion rupees at the Treasury bond auction that was held today. In a communique released by the Central Bank, it is said that the auction was held today with the hope of receiving 30 billion rupees.
The Central Bank of Sri Lanka says that the auction to issue treasury bonds maturing in 7 years and 4 months, 10 years and 20 years was held today to procure 30 billion rupees. The Central Bank in its communique also stated that since the total amount of bids received was 125 billion rupees, the CBSL had decided to accept 51 billion rupees. The press release also added that thereby the weighted average yield for bonds maturing in 7 years and 4 months would be 9.17% to 10.09% for bonds maturing in 10 years and 11.2% for bonds maturing in 20 years. Meanwhile, the Central Bank of Sri Lanka stated that an auction to procure 20 billion rupees through another issue of treasury bonds is scheduled to be held on Thursday this week.
On a story that made headlines this evening, the protest organized by the Federation of the University Teachers Association demanding that the Vice-Chancellor of the university step down was temporarily halted today. The association had arrived at the decision subsequent to a meeting convened this morning. The lecturers at the Colombo University staged this protest at the College House. The protesters engaged in the protest opposite the office of the Vice-Chancellor, demanding that he either steps down from his position or that a reasonable solution be granted by the authorities. Meanwhile, a discussion was held this morning between the university lecturers and the chairman of the University Grants Commission, Professor Mohan De Silva.
ප්‍රතිපාදන කොමිෂන් සභාවත් දේශපාලන අධිකාරියත්
The UGC and the political authority are of the stance that he needs to step down. We will only know the decision when the president returns. The UGC has made a pledge that they will make a direct intervention. We have thus decided to suspend this temporarily.
තීරණයකට ආව මේ ක්‍රියාවලිය අපි తాවකාලිකව අද අත්හිටුවන්නට කියලා.
Residents of several villages in Veerakatiya staged a demonstration opposite the Rajapaksa National School in Veerakatiya.
During the past regime, it was the surroundings of the Rajapaksa National School that was selected to hold the Independence Day celebrations. The road passing across the Rajapaksa National School and the part of the playgrounds of the school was prepared in line with the Independence Day celebrations. The protesters charged that the safety fence which was taken off has not been fixed as yet. Meanwhile, a road leading to several villages too has not been renovated.
This damage is massive. They have hindered and completely ended the opportunities for children to engage in physical activities here. They have cut through the ground and destroyed it.
Vehicular movement along the Tangol-Veerakatiya main road came to a standstill for a period of 2.5 hours owing to the protest. UNP Southern Provincial Councillor Nihal Vedaarachi, who arrived at the location, noted that a solution will be granted subsequent to holding discussions with Minister Sajith Premadasa.
News1st Classroom, a concept that was brought to life to create a generation of school students who are equipped with knowledge in media, marked a significant milestone today.
The 175th workshop under the Newsfirst Classroom program commenced today at the Haliala National School in Badulla.
The Newsfirst team was extended a warm welcome by the students upon their arrival at the Haliala National School in Badulla. The 175th Newsfirst Classroom workshop then commenced at the main hall of the school. Several performances by students added colour to the event.
I wish to commend and extend my gratitude for this meritorious deed that was undertaken here. You have come to a rural school outside of Colombo and shared knowledge that these children will no doubt carry into their future and find practical use for.
මාධ්‍ය සාක්ෂරතාවය කියන එක අපි ඔබට පැහැදිලි කරලා දෙන්න මේ වැඩමුළු මාලාව ආරම්භ කරමු. මොකද අපි මොනම
We commence this media literacy workshop for you. No matter what is broadcast, it is pointless if you cannot understand the right thing. That is why we included the word leadership in this program. We want to enable everyone in the classroom to become number one. Although there may be only one student leader per classroom, we want to see a situation where all of you can be identified as leaders. If we want to become international, if we want to include the best from abroad in Sri Lanka, then we must first learn to forge ahead without misusing it.
අපි ඉස්සෙල්ල දැනුවත් වෙලා ඉන්න ඕන ඒවා අවභාවිත නොකර කොහොමද ඉස්සරහට යන්නේ කියන්නේ.
A practical computer workshop was also held parallel to the program. Students were also trained in web design, and a notable feature of this workshop was that one of the students managed to successfully design a website of their own.
It was very beneficial for the children. This was a group of IT students, and what was taught was an essential part of their grade 11 syllabus. News1st has conducted a very important program here. This will aid us greatly as we strive ahead in life to achieve our goals. On behalf of the students at the school, I extend my heartfelt gratitude to the News1st team.
A leadership workshop featuring special resource personnel will also be held at the Halyala National School tomorrow. The 175th News1st Classroom Media and Leadership Workshop will conclude the day after tomorrow. Let's take a look at some of the political views expressed today at various programs.
The World Bank had recently conducted a review of 430 road development projects in a number of countries, including Sri Lanka. It was revealed that the projects in Sri Lanka were the most costly projects. This clearly shows that a large-scale fraud, skimming and misuse of public funds had taken place. The Umaoy multi-purpose development project costs $529 million. 47% of the funds have been spent. Before the commencement of the project, they had produced recommendations of the CEA as per their own wishes and did not implement it properly. There are issues in the villages. Work has been done according to the whims of the contractors. Who is accountable? The secretary of the ministry at the time and their associates. If you take a look at the Morgakhanda project, the cadre is 251. Yet they have employed thousands. How are they to be made permanent? The development speed is not how it was back then. There is a delay. There are doubts. If they are being carried out in a proper manner, there may be delays. If we visit a village for a road problem, come next week. The road will be completed. If your associate can fill his pockets, the contract too would be expedited. It may take more time than back then. If the thievery stops, another 2 or 3 more roads can be constructed.
No matter what irregularities have taken place, justice will be served to the families of the war heroes. Consider the progress of this country. The country is moving in a different direction now. Let us all aspire to us, all our knowledge and intelligence to create a beautiful and fortunate country.
8 out of 18 detainees held by the Terrorism Investigation Division or TID on charges of attempting and aiding the resurgence of LTTE have been released on bail. They were granted bail when they were produced before the Colombo Additional Magistrate Aruni Artigala today.
8 suspects including Balendu and Jayakumari and Padma Mahalingam were thus granted bail today. The attorney appearing on their behalf, K. Ratnavelu, stated in court today that the Attorney General had given instructions to release the 8 suspects on bail. The lawyer requested court that since none of them were residing in the region, they be granted sureties. Thereby, court decided to release the suspects on conditional bail and sureties of 200,000 rupees each. The case will be taken up again on the 8th of July. Bail was denied to 10 other detainees. The TID informed court that the Attorney General had not advised that they be released and that steps were being taken to file action against them in high courts. Court ordered the suspects who were not granted bail to be further remanded until the 24th of this month.
Well, that is a wrap of your primetime news for tonight. Thank you for joining us. For the News First team, I'm Nicola De Zoiza.
And I'm Joel Outskoon. Thank you very much. Take care and good night.